Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are we doing today? All right. I'm Reverend Dina McFeeters, honored to serve as your associate minister here. And our opening words are called Invitation to Join the Journey by Lynn Cox. Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. We begin our story again, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose. This path will ask much of us. Let us move forward with love, knowing we are not alone. Whoever you are, whatever your gifts, you are welcome to join this journey. We're going to learn a new song this morning, which is printed on the insert in your order of service. So please rise in body or spirit, and I will hand this over to Alyssa.
Hey friends, so Desiree Pointer-Mace and I will be on mic for this, and we're gonna start singing it, and just whenever you feel ready, just chime on in. Some of you might know it already. And then we'll just keep repeating it, and at some point I might harmonize, but Desiree will stay on the melody, and you can hang out with her. Sound good? Okay. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth.
am the Reverend Kimberly Tomchek Carlson, and it is always an honor to serve as your Minister of Religious Education. The story I have for you today is called You Are a Story, and it is by Bob Rachka. You are a living thing. You breathe, you eat, you sleep, you work, you play, you have dreams and fears. You have thoughts and memories. You are. You are someone's child. You might have one parent or two. You might have relatives who take care of you. You might be adopted. No matter who your family is, you deserve all the love you get. You are an animal. You are a member of the mammal family. You have bones, you have hair, you drink milk. You are closely related to a chimpanzee. Like all other animals, you call Earth home. You are a body of water. More than half of you is made of water. The water in you, the water in your sweat cools you off. The water in your saliva helps you eat. The water in your blood helps carry nutrients to your body. Rivers flow through you. You are an astronaut. You are a passenger on a ship called Earth. You sail around a star called the Sun. The Sun voyages through a galaxy called the Milky Way. You are always moving through space. You are a sponge. You are. You are constantly soaking up new information. You are a student of the world. You learn by trying new things. You absorb everything you see and hear and taste and smell and touch. You are a friend. You are someone who likes to play with others. Others also like to play with you. You share, you listen, you care about how others feel. You are someone others can count on. You are under construction. You are not a finished person. You are a work in progress. You are growing and learning and changing every day. Even when you grow up, you still won't be finished. Life is always building you. You are a mystery. What will you be when you grow up? What will you look like? Will you have children of your own? Where will you live? Who will you live with? Nobody knows, not even you. You are one of a kind. Even if you are a twin, there is no one exactly like you. There never has been another you. You are the only you that will ever be. You cannot be copied. You are unique. You are special. You are a miracle. You started out as one tiny cell inside another person who split into 2 cells, and then 4, and then 8, and you grew into a baby, and you pushed your way into the world. You became your own person. You are a story. You are the author of your life. Every day is a blank page waiting for you to fill it. Make your story funny. Make it interesting. Make it an adventure. Tell your story to others. The end.
I am sorry to share the news with you of a death in our congregation. Donna Jacobson died peacefully in her sleep on Monday morning, December 30th, 2024, after a long journey with Alzheimer's. She was in hospice care at the Lutheran home in Wauwatosa, surrounded by care, and died with her daughter Lisa holding her hand. Donna was 89 years old and was a member of First Church since 2004. Plans for a memorial service here at First Church in the spring will be forthcoming. It is our custom in this congregation to light a candle of life for a birth, adoption, or death of one of our members or active friends. So today, we light our candle of life in honor of Donna M. Jacobson. As we enter into a time of spoken meditation, followed by silence, followed by singing Spirit of Life, hymn 123 while seated, I just invite you to find a way, wherever you are, to ground yourself, however that works for you. Maybe you bring your attention to your feet. Maybe you shift your hips where you're sitting. Maybe you bring your attention to how your spine is both resting and holding up your body. Perhaps you notice the sensation of the air on your skin, or how your breath is coming in and moving out from your lungs. These words are by Mark Bellatini. We are here as we are, mortal, concerned, life-affirming, turned toward joy, facing our woes, to worship, to behold the mysteries of life and death without shield of creed. May our celebration help move us into that company who live to unveil ever deeper truths, who yielded their faithfulness when history's hard press was upon them, who honed their lives, no less fragile or strong than our own, on the whetstone of the larger love. Life of our own lives, we begin again.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Nick Devia. I am pleased to serve as your worship associate. We are a faith community of many identities. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, races, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, your spirit. We welcome all you are carrying with you today, and all your heart longs to set down. We welcome people watching online as we live stream this service. Hello, online folks. We enthusiastically welcome guests joining us today. If you're a visiting guest, we invite you to fill out a welcome card located in the pew rack in front of you and drop it off in the offering plate that will come around in a few minutes. After the service, please join us for a social hour across the hall in Leanhout's Common Room. Some accessibility notes: you can find hearing assist devices and large print hymnals and orders of service in the back of the sanctuary, as well as worship activity bags for children and those that would like them. There is a fragrance-free area in the front right pews. If you are watching online, you can enable YouTube's closed captioning on your viewing device. Today is the last day to register for Journey to Membership. Interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism and this community? Consider taking our winter Journey to Membership class held entirely via Zoom on 4 Wednesday evenings, January 8th through 29th, 6:30 to 8:30. Led by our ministers and staff, we explore Unitarian Universalist beliefs, histories, values, social justice, and the meaning of membership and how to make connections here. Today is the last day to register. Sign up at the connections table during coffee hour or register online on the church website. There's nothing like getting a real letter. We are thrilled to offer our annual Mystery Friends program, with signups open now. Any adult members and friends of First Church may participate. For more information, to join Mystery Friends, see the religious education table. I welcome you to share in the First Church worship and purpose by inviting you to join me in the unison affirmation of our mission, which is printed in your order of service. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Every week we have an opportunity to practice our values through sharing our resources. Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, the church shares half of all non-pledged cash in our offering plate with a community organization practicing our value of interdependence. Today, we share the plate with Forward Scholars, a community of volunteers tutoring program focused on K through 3 third graders who are not quite reading at the level of their classes. To contribute, put cash or checks made to Forward Scholars in the offering plate. We will forward it for you. The offering will now gratefully be received as we sing seated our hymn number 212, We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle. Volunteers, the first verse, volunteers and youth and children sing the first verse of the hymn and then follow Reverend Kimberly to the Leanhout's Common Room and then downstairs for Ari. If your child needs to check in for Ari, please accompany them. May the practice of giving bring us joy. I have loved and worked in theater for many years. People often ask me why I do what I do. How did I get into theater? In a real way, I got into theater because of my love of stories and storytelling. It was largely due to one show, Working, which is based on a book and interviews done by Studs Terkel in 1974. The show features stories from the everyday person. Different people in different jobs, from a waitress to a mason, from a valet to a fireman to a farmer. All of their stories, often overlooked in most media and musicals, are given equal attention. A major theme of this show is that every person with any kind of job has a story to tell and wants to have something to point to that they are proud of. I first saw the show Working on a PBS at the age of around 10, though I'd heard the music long before that. My family listened to the music, and we watched the VHS tape quite often while I was growing up. The soundtrack was a signature feature of our many road trips. Most times they would end up in family sing-alongs. Even my brother, who was not really into musicals, sang along to a few of the songs. I first got involved in theater through the Shorewood High School drama department and was lucky to be taught by Mrs. Gensler and Mr. Pruitt. I would stay after school, build and paint the sets, hang lights, do all the other things necessary to make a show happen, while learning from upperclassmen what the drama program was all about. Along with the teachers, my upperclassmen showed me what it takes to work backstage and create an amazing show. They became a family to me, became a major foundation of who I have become. They inspired me to study technical theater and pursue it from then on. When I got to college, I eventually had the chance to direct my beloved show, Working. During my directorial debut, a story that stood out to me most was that of a group of bricklayers, electricians, architects, roofers, painters, and they imagined that one day there would be a plaque on one of the buildings they worked on so that they could take their kids and show them what they had done. To have something to point to be able to say, see that building. I was the one that laid the bricks. I was the one that painted the lobby. I was part of dozens of the jobs that make that building happen. This storyline highlights the central theme of the show, wanting to be part of something, to leave your mark on the world and to have something to point to, something to be proud of. The show tells, in a way few other shows do, that there are no small roles. Everyone plays their part, and in theater, each person working on a show is adding their brick, their coat of paint, lending their voice, taking the tickets, cleaning up after the production. Each of us has something to be proud of, and that is the magic of storytelling. Everyone is part of it. Now, more than 25 years later, after first discovering the show Working, I am the technical director of the South Milwaukee Performing Arts Center. A role very similar to my high school teacher and mentor, Mr. Pruitt. In my job, I get to be a mentor. I get to try to guide and support the students in creating a theater family like I had. Over their years, many of my students keep coming back and taking on roles that require more and more leadership, including mentoring new students who then mentor new students. Some of these students stick with it, and you literally cannot keep them out of the theater. These students know that theater will always be a safe place for them to explore their own stories. With each theater opportunity and challenge they take on, I get to help them find their something to point to, something to be proud of, and share their success, just like the characters in the show Working. Thank you.
All right, now we're awake. Thank you so much. Stories. Hugo was in love. It was young love, all-absorbing, possibly unrequited love, and it made him need to locate himself in time and space with specificity so that his head would not explode into meaninglessness. Hugo is a character in Louise Erdrich's latest novel, The Mighty Red. Erdrich wrote, Hugo cradled his head, hands over his sensitive ears, and stared into deep time. His textbook defined a super eon as spanning billions of years and encompassing more than one era, which were units of millions. There was the Paleozoic era, the Mesozoic era, the Cenozoic era, and all derived from Greek terms for ancient life, middle life, and new life. Millions of years. Periods, the Jurassic or the Quaternary, which we are still in, were also millions. Epochs and ages were thousands. In the face of that, what does it mean to live moment to moment as I am living, he asked himself. Each instant, without knowing if she loves me, seems like a super eon, Hugo thought. Then, when I am with her, time collapses. Kismet herself is a collapsed super eon. Hugo was a pompous thinker. With Kismet, he thought, there is no time. Or perhaps we shoot between epochs on a ghost ship of desire. I don't know, he said out loud. I'm just trying to get this straight. Beneath his feet were boards. So now we hear him trying to orient himself in space after orienting himself in time. So he was getting his grounding in the midst of this overwhelming love. Beneath his feet were boards, beneath the boards a basement dug from a 30-foot deep trench of topsoil and reinforced with common fieldstones, or glacial erratics. In the last decades of the 18th century, a geologist endlessly named Henri Louis Frédéric de Saussure noted boulders of a foreign granite scattered on top of limestone high in the Jura Mountains of Switzerland. Terrain erratique, he called them, using the Latin words erratus and terra to mean ground that has wandered. Ground that has wandered. The term was still used to describe stones left behind by glacial ice. That is my heart, thought Hugo. My heart propelled into place by a massive force and left here, a lonely, erratic. Hugo put down his book because tears were leaking. He felt they had pooled in his heart because of being faced with so much meaning. So that is what stories do for us, folks. They locate us in time and space, potentially with so much meaning. Stories help us make meaning out of the human condition and the situations we find ourselves in. Stories explain how we got here, like the creation stories found in a wide variety of religions and cultures, including the scientific story, the Big Bang and evolution. Stories tell us why we are here and what we are supposed to do. Stories help us create the future we desire. Padma Lakshmi wrote about the moth radio hour. I believe in the supreme power of storytelling. It's really the only superpower we humans have. Think about it. The cheetah is faster, the elephant stronger, the eagle can soar much higher than any Olympic pole vaulter. Storytelling is the best thing about being human, and I believe it can change the world. Stories can and do change the world. She continues, our stories tell us who we are, who we were, and who we hope to be. They're how we form our very identity. The stories we carry within us contain our lineage, our hopes, dreams, and pain. They tell, too, of our anxieties about ourselves, the world, and our place in it. Stories are how we keep our collective history alive. Narrative psychologist Dan McCannum claims that storytelling happens in all human cultures. He says typically people who tell good stories are considered special and given status in their community. Stories are fundamental to human adaptation and to building an identity. He says each person, from their teens onward, crafts a story onto their life as they figure out who they are, how they're influenced by their culture, and how they want to shape the world. As teens and young adults, we use stories to test and form our identity as we self-differentiate from our families. In middle age, you define that, I won't. In middle age, we begin thinking about our legacy. What are we leaving behind for future generations? Then as elders, we often reflect back on the whole of our lives in the form of a life review. Stories are always with us, for better or for worse. Today I want to talk about why we tell stories, and to do that, I'll talk about what is a story and what happens when we hear a story. I'll claim that how we tell a story matters. I'll talk about the purpose of story and a little bit about where and how we share stories in this community. So what is a story? A story is a narrative. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There are characters, there's place and time and detail. There's tension or conflict. Something happens in a story. There's transformation, sometimes resolution, sometimes a lesson learned, a moral to the story, or a message. Well, what happens when we hear a story? Stories affect our brain chemistry. Joe Lazauskas talks about the science of storytelling. He says the human brain lights up with 5 times the normal neural activity when telling or hearing a story. Oxytocin is released in the brain when we hear good stories. Oxytocin, as you know, is the empathy drug, so sharing good stories helps us care about others and build relationships. In the book How to Tell a Story by The Moth, they write, a study led by neuroscientist Yuri Hassan found that when a person is listening and comprehending a story, their brain activity begins to couple or align with the brain of the teller. MRI scans of 2 brains, one talking, one listening, showed that the brains began to sync. Where the teller's brain showed activity or lit up, soon after the listener's brain lit up too. Now, one catch is that this only happens when the listener is engaged and comprehending the story. So, in short, they say, if you want to spark another person's brain, your story needs to be good. No pressure, worship associates. Joe says that a good story has 4 elements. 1 is relatability. 2 is novelty, a surprise or something new. 3 is tension. And 4 is fluency. He means like understandability, that you can immerse yourself in the story. If a story is good, it does create empathy. It helps us understand others' experiences. A good story, you feel like you're not alone while you're listening to it. It expands the realm of what's possible, and one could go as far as to say that stories can save lives. Batu Wuri, a moth storyteller, wrote of her childhood. We left Sierra Leone and were displaced for over 11 years because of the Civil War. My mother, deeply connected to her family, was left figuring the world out without her safe place, her mother, aunts, father, brothers, and extended family to guide her journey as a young mother and wife. She would spend the whole day singing songs or speaking out loud to herself in her native language. She would pull my sisters and me close and tell us about her childhood. We didn't always understand all the details, but seeing our mother light up while telling us stories made us light up too. Her excitement became our excitement, her sorrow, our sorrow, and so on. Telling those stories is what kept my mother alive, kept her heart beating through loss after loss after loss. That is how I came to understand the power of storytelling. So here's where I claim how we tell the story matters. How we tell the story matters because it helps us remember and interpret the past. How we tell the story of what happened to our family matters because it influences our identity and what we believe is possible. How I tell the story of what happened to me or what I did matters because it influences how I view myself and others and the choices I might make today or tomorrow. For example, how a story gets told in the courtroom influences the jury. How a minister tells someone's life story in a eulogy matters because it influences the bereavement process. How you sort through your memories of your loved one who has died matters because however complicated your memories might be, it's a normal part of grieving, and it gives you the agency to choose how you want to remember them in your mind and heart, how you want to tell their story and bring it with you. Former President Jimmy Carter died last week at age 100. In the days following his death, we as a country and as individuals are deciding how to cement his legacy. How we tell his story matters. Do we say that he was a one-term, ineffectual US president who wore wool cardigan sweaters as he called on the American people to sacrifice by turning down their thermostats during the energy crisis? I remember my family turning down our thermostats. Or do we say that he accomplished much as our 39th president by creating the Department of Energy, a national energy policy, signed the SALT II nuclear arms reduction treaty with the Soviet Union, established a relationship with China, and conducted the Camp David peace accord between Egypt and Israel? Do we emphasize that he was a humanitarian, a freelance diplomat after his term as president, and recipient of the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize? Do we say that he was a peanut farmer, that he caused a worldwide eradication of guinea worm disease? Do we say he was a devoted husband of 77 years to the same woman, the longest marriage in the history of the White House? Do we say he was a Habitat for Humanity leader and worker, a nearly lifelong Sunday school teacher, a humble hero who helped protect democracy. Speaking of democracy, how we tell the story about the January 6th storming of the US Capitol matters. It is much on our minds and hearts as the 4th anniversary approaches tomorrow. How do we tell that story? Was it a criminal act or a liberatory act? Was it an insurrection, attempted coup, instigated and encouraged by the sitting president at the time who was in cahoots with white Christian nationalists? Or was it a patriotic act by citizens who would liberate us from government? Or even a day of love? Right? I'm not saying anything new here. You've heard these very different spins on the story, on what happened. Which version we choose to tell and to live forward from matters tremendously. So what is the purpose of story? Story helps us make sense of things that do not make sense. It helps us make meaning, find our purpose in life, our calling, like Nick's story, where he told us how he found his vocation within the story of a play, a movie, which connected to his family, his high school mentors, his job. Stories provide entertainment and fun. They let us escape reality for a while. Stories create shared history. They pass on tradition, help form community, and form identity. Julie Beck, in an article in The Atlantic, wrote, in the realm, of narrative psychology, a person's life story is not a Wikipedia biography of the facts and events of life, but rather the way a person integrates those facts and events internally, picks them apart, and weaves them back together to make meaning. She said that the narrative becomes a form of identity in which the things someone chooses to include in the story, the way they tell it, can both reflect and shape who they are. A life story doesn't just say what happened, it says why it was important, what it means for the person, for who they'll become, and for what happens next. So the purpose of story goes deep. Story can limit or expand imagination. It can exacerbate or heal trauma. It can help us deal with our fears and deal with the unknown. Story can transform suffering. Story gives us something to point to, inspiration, motivation, role models. It creates hope and belonging. My colleague and friend Emily Gage wrote, sometimes just sharing our story and having it be held by others is helpful. Sometimes hearing a story that sounds like yours but with a different ending can give you hope. Sometimes listening to someone whose perspective is totally different opens up new worlds and possibilities. In our religious community, we're shaped by the stories that we encounter. And in our religious community, we create a shared story of who we are and who we may become. So a little bit about where and how we share stories in this community. Most obvious is here during Sunday services with worship associate stories and sermons and time for all ages. We tell and listen to people's stories at many other times too. In meetings, we do our personal check-ins. During social and affinity groups, we catch up on each other's lives. During RE classes, multi-gen activities, adult spiritual development groups like theme circles, UU Wellspring, and study groups where we practice intentional sharing and intentional listening. Our social justice teams and other church program teams meet to work together and share their stories. And when a pastoral care associate visits or calls one of you, they're there to listen to your story. Judith Stone, a founding Moth board member and storyteller, wrote, "Sharing a story is an act of courage and generosity. Thanks to the generosity of storytellers, we listeners are almost always granted the pleasure of simultaneously losing ourselves and finding ourselves in stories. We're restored to compassion and possibility and reconnected to our messy, marvelous, exasperating, and exalted human community. For a while at least, listening to a story, our hearts and minds are open, and that is good practice for after the stories are over." So I wonder, how do you want to tell, excuse me, the story of your life? It's like I haven't talked for a week. How do you want to tell your story? How do you want to talk to each other? How do you want to tell the story of your family or your community? How do you want to tell the story of your country? Do you want to tell these stories in a way that limits or empowers? The choice is ours. It's an important question because how you tell the stories matters. How we listen to stories matter. How our brains sync up with each other and change. That matters. You matter. We matter profoundly. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So let us not only tell a good story in this new year, but let us be a good story together. May it be so. Our closing words are by Christina Baldwin. Get ready. Little moments and big moments are coming when we can offer and receive story that helps us hold each other steady in the untidiness of the world. Let us look out for each other as we make our journeys home. We, the people who know and practice and celebrate and preserve the power of story. We who will never let the power of humanity's voice be silenced. May it be so. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our recessional hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.